This story is titled, "My Parents Called Saying They're Taking Away My Company Share and See Me in Court." I just texted okay, then immediately called the buyer who'd been offering to purchase my stake and sold it. Next day, Mom and Dad desperately tried to cancel the deal, but they'd already lost everything. Hey Reddit, my therapist says I need to process my emotions in a healthy way, instead of just working 18-hour days and ignoring my feelings. So here I am, about to dump what's probably the wildest family drama you've read this month. Grab some popcorn. This is going to be long. Until 10 months ago, I was the only person in my family who knew which end of a hammer to hold. My name is Marcus. I'm 26 years old, and this is the story of how I went from being the backbone of our family business to owning it outright after my own relatives tried to destroy everything my grandfather built. Harrison Roofing was started by my grandfather, Harrison Mitchell, back in 1979. This man was an absolute legend in every sense of the word. He started with nothing but a beat-up 1967 Ford F-100 pickup truck, a toolbox he built himself with his own two hands, and the kind of work ethic that could frame a house in his sleep. Grandpa Harrison wasn't just a roofer. He was an artist with shingles and tar, someone who understood that every roof was a promise to keep a family dry and safe. I still remember the stories about him building an entire roof during a hailstorm because he'd promised the customer it would be done by their son's graduation party the next day. That was the kind of integrity and dedication that built Harrison Roofing from a one-man operation into a respected mid-size roofing company in Atlanta. When Grandpa passed away in 2019, he left behind more than just a business. He left a legacy, or at least he tried to. The will was particularly interesting, and looking back now, I realize how prophetic his decisions were. He split Harrison Roofing ownership like this. My father Vincent, 55 years old, got 30%. My mother Diana, 52, received 20%. My sister Brittany, 29, got 15%. And I received the largest share at 35%. His exact words in the will were something I'll never forget. Marcus gets the biggest piece because he's the only one who gives a damn about actually building things. The rest of you better listen to him, or you'll run this into the ground faster than a Chinese drywall lawsuit. Those turned out to be prophetic words, Grandpa. Absolutely prophetic. Now let me paint you a detailed picture of my loving family, because you need to understand exactly what level of incompetence we're dealing with here. This isn't just about lazy relatives. This is about people who were so far removed from reality that they made decisions that would make a Fortune 500 CEO weep with laughter. My father, Vincent Mitchell, age 55, is our self-proclaimed CEO who inherited his position, but definitely not his ability. This man calls himself the Chief Executive Officer, but couldn't identify a Phillips head screwdriver if you labeled it with giant neon letters and a flashing arrow. I once watched him spend 45 minutes trying to figure out why a nail gun wouldn't work, getting increasingly frustrated and red-faced. The safety lock was on. That's it. 45 minutes. His biggest contribution to the company has been securing himself a reserved parking spot and maintaining a golf handicap of 20, which honestly might be generous. Dad attended business school back in the 1980s, which apparently means he learned to say synergy and paradigm shift in every conversation. But he never quite figured out what a load-bearing beam actually does, or why it matters in construction. His typical day involves arriving at the office around 10:30 a.m., immediately checking the stock market. Not our company's finances, mind you, but the actual stock market where he consistently loses money day trading like some kind of discount Gordon Gekko. After that financial genius hour, he takes what he calls a business lunch that lasts approximately 3 hours, followed by leaving at 2:30 p.m. for networking at the country club, which mostly involves complaining about his golf game to other mediocre businessmen. His most memorable quotes include absolute gems like, "Why do we need so many safety inspections? Seems like overkill to me," and "Can't we just use regular nails instead of these expensive roofing bolts?" But my personal favorite, the one that still makes me question our shared DNA, was, "What do you mean the roof is leaking? Just put some caulk in it." Yes, he actually suggested fixing a structural roofing problem with caulk. The man who owns 30% of a roofing company thought caulk was an appropriate roofing repair material. Then there's my mother, Diana Mitchell, 52 years old, our chief financial officer, who thinks Excel is that computer thing Marcus does. Mom's accounting expertise extends to knowing that money goes in and money goes out, though she's demonstrated a remarkable talent for the out part. Her main contribution to Harrison Roofing over the years has been redecorating the office 9 different times in 6 years, each renovation more expensive and impractical than the last, and hosting business development lunches at restaurants where the appetizers cost more than our workers make in a full day. Mom still tells people she was a model, which is technically true if you count doing one J.C. Penney catalog shoot back in 1993. She has that photo framed in what she calls her executive suite, displayed prominently like it's a Harvard diploma. The woman once tried to write off a $3,500 Louis Vuitton bag as a site inspection kit. When I asked her what exactly she needed to inspect with a designer purse, she looked at me with complete seriousness and said, "My image, Marcus. Image is everything in business." Apparently, our clients were supposed to be impressed by her handbag's structural integrity. Her financial wisdom includes such absolute hits as, "Why don't we just print more invoices if we need money?" And "depreciation sounds so negative. Can't we call it something else?" But my personal favorite was when she said, "I don't understand why the bank keeps calling us. We gave them checks." The concept that checks need to be backed by actual money in the account was apparently too complex for our CFO to grasp. My sister Brittany Mitchell Davis, 29 years old, serves as our marketing director and honestly deserves her own reality show. Her entire marketing strategy consists of posting selfies in pristine, never-been-used hard hats with captions like "CEO in training # your boss babe," "Future roofing empire owner # hustle life," and "Construction princess # living my beast life." She has 12,000 Instagram followers, which would actually be impressive if 6,000 of them weren't bots she bought from some sketchy website for $75. Brittany drives a white BMW X5 with vanity plates that read "Roof QN." I'm not kidding. That's actually what they say. She had the entire vehicle wrapped with our company logo, but insisted it be done in rose gold because, according to her, nothing says "Serious Roofing Company" like rose gold branding. Her idea of visiting a job site involves driving by slowly with all the windows rolled up because all that dust is bad for my complexion. She's never actually set foot on an active construction site, but she's posted probably 300 photos of herself posing with unused safety equipment. Her marketing achievements include creating a TikTok dance trend called the Shingle Shuffle that garnered 18 views, 12 of which were from family members. Business cards scented with Chanel No. 5, a company Instagram filter that adds sparkles to safety vests, and a failed YouTube series called Roofing Runway, where she reviewed work boots based exclusively on how they looked when paired with yoga pants. The series lasted 3 episodes before she got bored and moved on to her next brilliant idea. Then there's my brother-in-law Tyler Davis, 31 years old, our operations manager, who literally married into his position. This tactical genius once suggested we could save money by mixing our concrete with less water to make it stretch further and cover more area. When I patiently explained that's not how concrete chemistry works, he asked if we could add flour instead to bulk it up. Flour in concrete. I still lie awake at night thinking about that conversation. Before joining the family business, Tyler sold phone accessories at a mall kiosk, which apparently qualified him to manage construction operations for a multi-million-dollar roofing company. His entire roofing knowledge comes from watching HGTV and playing SimCity on his computer. He thought tar paper was literally a type of newspaper until last year, and I had to explain to him that it's actually a waterproofing material. The man was 30 years old and thought we were putting newspaper on roofs. His biggest operational improvement to date was suggesting we switch from orange hard hats to purple ones because orange is so aggressive and might intimidate clients. When I asked him to elaborate on this theory, he explained that purple was more zen and would create better workplace energy flow. This is the same man who's supposed to coordinate our material deliveries and job site logistics. Tyler's greatest hits include approving an order for 150 left-handed hammers, which don't exist, by the way, trying to negotiate wholesale pricing on dehydrated water for our cement mixing, asking why we couldn't just 3D print entire roofs instead of building them traditionally, and suggesting we pivot to virtual roofing during COVID. When I asked what virtual roofing meant, he said we could use augmented reality to show customers what their roof would look like without actually fixing it. The man thought we could solve leaky roofs with smartphone apps. Then there's me, Marcus Mitchell, 26 years old, responsible for literally everything else that actually matters in this company. I'm the idiot who actually went to trade school, got certified in roofing management, learned the business from the ground up, and somehow became the only person in this entire circus who knows what a joist is or why it's important. I started working summers with Grandpa when I was 16. became a full-time laborer at 18, earned my contractor's license at 24, and by 25 was essentially running every single roofing-related aspect of the company, while my family played dress-up and pretended to be executives. My typical day was absolutely insane, and looking back, I can't believe I survived it for as long as I did. I'd wake up at 5:30 a.m. to check weather conditions for all our active job sites because someone had to make sure we weren't sending crews out into dangerous conditions. By 6:30 a.m., I was doing the first site inspection of the day, making sure everything was set up safely and correctly. By 7:30 a.m., I was dealing with whatever catastrophic mistake Tyler had made the previous day, usually involving wrong materials, double-booked crews, or equipment that had mysteriously vanished. By 8:30 a.m., I was fixing whatever budget crisis Mom had created with her latest business expense, which could be anything from a $500 lunch she claimed was client development to a $2,000 office decoration she deemed essential for company morale. Then at 9:30 a.m., I'd finally get to do actual roofing work. You know, the thing our company was supposedly built around. At 2:30 p.m., I'd be explaining to Dad why we couldn't build a roof out of recycled airplane parts, or why his latest cost-cutting idea would violate 17 different building codes. The afternoon brought more actual work at 4:30 p.m., followed by evening site checks at 6:30 p.m. to make sure everything was secure and ready for the next day. By 8:30 p.m., I was doing paperwork that Mom had forgotten to file, usually involving permits, insurance claims, or vendor payments that were overdue. At 10:30 p.m., I'd lie in bed wondering where my life had gone so wrong. And by 11:30 p.m., I'd pass out from exhaustion only to wake up and repeat this entire nightmare again. This is where the real fun begins. And by fun, I mean the systematic financial destruction of my personal life. See, I made the critical mistake of being good at my job. While everyone else was playing CEO, I was actually keeping the company profitable, which made me, in their eyes, the perfect person to fund their increasingly delusional lifestyles and business expenses. It started small and seemingly reasonable. Marcus, the company's a little short this month. Can you cover the materials for the Riverside project? We'll pay you back next quarter. Spoiler alert. They never paid me back. Not once. Not ever. But I was young and stupid and believed that family actually meant something. Then it escalated. The requests got bigger, more frequent, and more ridiculous, but they always had the perfect manipulation tactics ready to deploy. It's for the good of the company, Marcus. We're family, and family helps each other. Don't be so selfish. Grandpa would want this. You'll get it all back when we expand into commercial roofing. Every guilt trip, every emotional manipulation, every appeal to family loyalty was designed to keep me writing checks for their fantasies. Here's a comprehensive breakdown of what I personally paid for over 6 years because the company needs this. I kept detailed records because even then, some part of me knew this was insane, but I was too deep in the family manipulation to see it clearly. Mom's business expenses were absolutely legendary in their absurdity. Her monthly business wardrobe from Nordstrom ran $6,000 because, as she constantly reminded everyone, appearance is everything in business. She needed weekly spa treatments that cost $750 each because she had to look professional for client meetings. Meetings that, as far as I could tell, never actually happened. Her networking lunches at the Ritz-Carlton averaged $3,500 per month, which would have been expensive even if they'd resulted in actual business instead of just Instagram photos of expensive food. She hired executive coaching from her yoga instructor at $500 per session, claiming she needed spiritual guidance for business leadership. Her office inspiration trips to Savannah cost $9,500 per trip, and she took these quarterly because she needed to recharge her creative energy for strategic planning. She ordered custom stationery with gold embossing for $2,500, bought an $18,000 Italian leather couch for our waiting room, hired a feng shui consultant for the office at $6,000, and purchased success attraction crystals for her desk at $3,500. The total damage from Mom's essential business expenses was approximately $220,000. Brittany's marketing investments were equally insane, but with a distinctly millennial Instagram influencer twist. The white BMW X5 lease for client meetings cost $1,300 per month, even though she never actually met with clients. Her marketing conferences in Miami, Vegas, and Cabo totaled $52,000 annually, which would have been educational if she'd learned anything besides new poses for selfies. Professional photo shoots for her Instagram content ran $2,500 per month because apparently our roofing company's success depended on having magazine-quality photos of her in unused safety gear. She paid for influencer coaching at $600 per week from someone who taught her how to leverage her personal brand for business growth. Custom pink hard hats with Swarovski crystals cost $350 each, and she ordered dozens because they kept getting damaged, by which she meant they got dirty when she occasionally visited actual job sites. Website redesigns happened 6 times for a total of $60,000, and logo redesigns occurred 10 times for $25,000 total because she kept changing her mind about what colors best represented her construction queen aesthetic. Brand development spa retreats cost $18,000, and social media management tools she never learned to use ran $600 per month. The total damage from Brittany's marketing genius was approximately $195,000. Dad's networking necessities were perhaps the most infuriating because he genuinely believed they were investments. His country club membership cost $35,000 per year, which would have been reasonable if he'd actually conducted business there instead of just complaining about his golf game. Golf lessons to close deals better ran $250 per week, taught by a pro who had never sold anything in his life except golf lessons. An executive parking spot rental downtown cost $500 per month because apparently walking an extra block would have damaged his CEO image. Business class upgrades for flights to conferences he slept through totaled $24,000 annually. He bought 15 leather-bound business card holders at $600 each because he kept losing them and needed backups for his backups. Subscriptions to business magazines he never read cost $2,500 per year, and power lunches at steakhouses ran $6,000 per month. He even had custom golf balls made with our company logo for $6,000, though I never saw evidence that his golf game impressed anyone enough to generate business. The total damage from Dad's executive necessities was approximately $250,000. Tyler's operational improvements were perhaps the most ridiculous because they made absolutely no sense from any business perspective. Golf lessons to bond with Dad cost $600 per week because apparently their relationship needed professional athletic intervention. An executive MBA from an online diploma mill cost $25,000 and resulted in a certificate that looked like it was printed at Kinko's. A leadership retreat that was basically a Vegas bachelor party cost $18,000 and taught him nothing except new ways to lose money gambling. A standing desk that he never actually stood at cost $3,500, and productivity apps he couldn't figure out cost $250 per month. Business coaching from some guy he met at the gym ran $1,200 per month and consisted mainly of motivational speeches about disrupting the construction paradigm. A company truck he was afraid to drive cost $52,000 and sat in our parking lot gathering dust, and an office Segway for efficiency cost $6,000 and was used exactly 3 times before being forgotten in a corner. The total damage from Tyler's operational genius was approximately $148,000. The company purchases were the cherry on top of this financial disaster cake. We bought a company boat for $95,000 that was used exactly 3 times. Once for the purchase photo shoot, once when Dad took his golf buddies out and nearly crashed it into a dock, and once when Brittany used it as a backdrop for Instagram photos. We rented a yacht for team-building exercises that cost $12,000 and consisted mainly of my family getting seasick while trying to look important for social media. Office renovation number 1 featured a marble reception desk for $30,000 because Mom decided our clients needed to be impressed the moment they walked in. Office renovation number 2 added a Zen garden meeting room for $42,000 after Brittany attended a conference about mindful business practices. Office renovation number 3 created an Instagram-worthy break room for $48,000, complete with a coffee bar that cost more than most people's cars. We bought executive meditation pods at $9,500 each. We purchased 5 of them because Tyler insisted that executive mindfulness was the future of business management. A company jet ski cost $18,000 and was justified as emergency water transportation for lakeside properties, even though we'd never worked on a single lakeside property. The crown jewel was a mobile office RV that cost $135,000 and never left our parking lot because no one knew how to drive it, and Tyler was terrified of backing it up. The total damage from company purchases was approximately $440,000. The grand total over 6 years was over $1,253,000 of my personal money, while my own life looked like a cautionary tale about financial priorities. I drove a 2009 F-150 with 215,000 miles on it, held together by prayer and duct tape. I lived in a studio apartment in the sketchy part of town where gunshots were part of the neighborhood ambience. My wardrobe consisted of Walmart jeans and the same pair of work boots I'd been wearing for 4 years, resoled twice and patched with electrical tape. My diet was a gourmet selection of top ramen and peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, occasionally supplemented by whatever was on sale at the dollar store. I hadn't taken a vacation in 5 years, had canceled my health insurance to save money, and had maxed out multiple credit cards covering company expenses that were never reimbursed. I had zero retirement savings, used a Netflix password I borrowed from a coworker, and my idea of entertainment was falling asleep watching free YouTube videos on my phone. But hey, Brittany needed that BMW X5 for those client meetings she never had. And Mom needed those spa treatments to maintain her professional image for a job she didn't actually do. February 18th, 2024, 6:15 a.m. I'm standing on the Riverside job site checking roof foundation work in 22-degree weather. My hands are numb despite my work gloves. My coffee has turned into a caffeinated slush. And I'm reviewing construction plans under a work light because the sun isn't even thinking about coming up yet. This is my normal morning routine. Getting to sites before dawn to make sure everything is safe and ready for the crew. My phone buzzes with a text message, which is weird because Mom doesn't usually achieve consciousness before 9:30 a.m. And everyone else in my family treats early morning like it's a contagious disease. I pull out my phone, expecting maybe a weather update or some administrative detail I need to handle. Instead, I see a message that makes my blood freeze despite the winter air. Marcus family meeting happened yesterday. You're no longer part of Harrison Roofing. Dad's buying out, your 35% lawyer will contact you. Mom, I read it 7 times. Each time it felt more surreal, like I was reading someone else's nightmare instead of my own reality. Fired via text message from the company I'd been bleeding for since I was 16 years old. The company I'd essentially been running single-handedly while everyone else played dress-up executive. The company that existed solely because of my sweat, my money, and my grandfather's legacy that I'd been desperately trying to preserve. Carlos, the foreman, noticed me standing there staring at my phone like it had just delivered news of an alien invasion. "You okay, boss?" he asked, genuine concern in his voice. This man had worked with me for years and could read my moods better than my own family ever had. I couldn't even form words to answer him. I just told the crew to take an early lunch and sat in my truck for 3 hours, trying to process what had just happened. They'd had a family meeting without me, about me, and decided to kick me out via text message. Not a phone call, not a face-to-face conversation, not even the courtesy of a properly formatted email. A text message like I was some random employee who'd been caught stealing office supplies. I tried calling everyone, desperate for some kind of explanation or human conversation about what was happening to my life. Dad's phone went straight to voicemail, but it had a new message that I'd never heard before. Vincent Mitchell is in important meetings. Please leave a message. Since when did he record formal voicemails? The man who couldn't figure out how to use the safety lock on a nail gun suddenly had professional phone etiquette? Mom texted back with the emotional depth of a customer service robot. This was a difficult decision. Please don't make it harder than necessary. It's just business. Just business. 6 years of my life, over $1 million of my money, and the systematic destruction of everything my grandfather built was just business to her. Brittany was too busy documenting her life for social media to actually respond, but she posted an Instagram story from inside her BMW X5 that made my blood boil. Big changes coming. So excited for HR's next chapter. Sometimes you have to prune the dead branches for new growth. #evolution, #boss moves, dead branches. I was a dead branch that needed to be pruned for new growth. The woman who couldn't identify a screwdriver was calling me dead weight. Tyler's contribution was peak Tyler. He just liked Brittany's post and added a fire emoji. That was his entire response to destroying my career and my life. A fire emoji. The man who thought concrete could be mixed with flour expressed his feelings about family betrayal through Instagram reactions. For 4 weeks, I got absolutely nothing from them. No explanation, no details about this supposed buyout, no contact from the lawyer they'd mentioned. Just radio silence from the family I'd given everything to support. But I wasn't sitting idle during this time. I was planning my counterattack. The first thing I did was hire a lawyer, which cost me $6,000 I didn't have just for the retainer. Victoria Williams was a corporate attorney who specialized in family business disputes, and she was worth every penny I couldn't afford to pay her. When I explained my situation, her eyes lit up like she'd just found a winning lottery ticket. They can't just fire you via text and force a buyout, she explained during our first meeting. You own 35% of the company. They need proper procedures, fair valuation, and most importantly, your consent for any major decisions affecting the business. March 12, 2024, 2:30 a.m. I'm doom scrolling LinkedIn because sleep hasn't been happening much lately, and there it is. The announcement that made everything crystal clear. Harrison Roofing proud to announce merger with Goldstein Development Group. This partnership will revolutionize luxury home construction in Georgia. #next level, #game changers, #family business, #level up. The photo showed my entire family popping champagne with Bradley Goldstein, looking like they'd just won the business lottery. Mom was wearing a $6,000 dress that I'd probably paid for. Brittany was doing her signature Instagram pose. Tyler was trying to look important and failing spectacularly. And Dad was shaking hands with the devil himself. For those not familiar with Georgia construction, let me educate you about Brad Goldstein. This piece of work builds McMansions that fall apart in 6 years. He has 22 active lawsuits for substandard work, all settled quietly with non-disclosure agreements. He uses the cheapest materials possible while charging premium prices, and he saves money by skipping crucial steps like proper foundation waterproofing. He once built an entire luxury development on a former landfill without proper soil remediation. He's known for allegedly bribing inspectors, and his houses have more structural problems than a calculus textbook. This was who my family chose to partner with. This was who they picked over me. I called Mom immediately, my hands shaking with rage and disbelief. She answered with her fake customer service voice, the one she used when she was trying to sound professional and competent. Marcus! Oh, we were just about to call you about the merger. It's so exciting. I found out on LinkedIn about a major decision affecting my 35% stake. On LinkedIn. I could barely keep my voice steady. Well, sweetie, it all happened so fast. Brad reached out with this amazing offer, and your father handled all the details. You know how these business opportunities work. You have to move quickly or lose out. Why wasn't I consulted? This affects my ownership percentage. This is my inheritance from Grandpa. Oh, Marcus, you know how you get. Always so worried about building codes and safety standards and structural integrity. Brad says those are just obstacles to growth. You have to think bigger, sweetie. You have to embrace innovation. That's when Tyler's voice chimed in. They had me on speakerphone, of course, because privacy wasn't a concept they understood. Yeah, bro, this is next level stuff. Brad's talking about disrupting the whole construction paradigm. Something about modular luxury frames and just-in-time material delivery. Real CEO visionary stuff. You wouldn't get it. This man had just word-vomited business buzzwords at me like he was having a LinkedIn stroke. I couldn't help myself. Tyler, do you even know what modular framing means? Well, it's like modules that frame, modularly. Brad explains it better than I can. That's when I knew this wasn't just about pushing me out. This was about them being completely out of their depth and not even realizing it. They were drowning in their own incompetence and somehow convinced it was swimming. I hung up and called Connor Morrison, my college roommate who had become a forensic accountant. We'd kept in touch over the years, and he owed me a favor from when I renovated his mom's kitchen at cost, saving his family about $15,000 in contractor fees. Connor, I need you to do a deep dive into Harrison Roofing's finances. Full forensic workup. I need to know exactly how bad things really are. I explained the situation while pacing around my tiny apartment like a caged animal. That's a big ask, Marcus. What exactly am I looking for? Evidence that my family's been screwing up worse than I thought. I have a feeling this merger isn't about opportunity. It's about desperation. What Connor found over the next week was a masterpiece of incompetence and what bordered on outright fraud. The financial records read like a case study in how to destroy a profitable business through sheer stupidity and greed. There were $825,000 in consulting fees paid to something called Wellness Dynamics LLC, which turned out to be owned by Mom's personal trainer. Apparently, gym sessions and juice cleanses qualified as business consulting if you were creative enough with the paperwork. Another $350,000 in materials expenses were traced directly to Brittany's personal credit cards. She'd been buying everything from designer clothes to spa treatments and categorizing them as marketing materials and client relations expenses. We found $210,000 in site inspections that were actually Dad's country club bills, creatively disguised as legitimate business expenses. There were $240,000 in equipment rental fees for equipment we already owned outright. Someone had been renting our own tools back to us and pocketing the money. But the real bombshell was the forged signatures Connor discovered. Mine, specifically, on loan documents I'd never seen or approved. There were safety violations that had been covered up with what appeared to be bribes to inspectors, unpaid subcontractor bills totaling $575,000, and tax irregularities that would make the IRS break out in a cold sweat. Hidden debts of $2.7 million surfaced from the depths of their creative bookkeeping, along with 4 separate mortgages on property that Grandpa had owned outright and left debt-free. They'd managed to find ways to borrow money against assets that were supposed to be secure, and inflated revenue reports had been used to secure loans that we had no realistic way of paying back. But here's the nuclear bomb that Connor found buried in their financial records. They'd been systematically cooking the books to make the company look profitable for the merger. Goldstein thought he was buying a company with $6 million in annual revenue and $1.2 million in profits. The reality was $2.4 million in revenue and $950,000 in losses. They were literally selling him a fairy tale written in red ink. Victoria, my lawyer, was practically salivating when I showed her Connor's findings during our next meeting. "This is beautiful, Marcus. They've handed us everything we need to not only stop this merger, but potentially pursue criminal charges." The legal strategy became clear as we reviewed the evidence. Their plan had been to get rid of me because I'd never approved the merger, force a buyout at way below market value, and then use the merger, which required 60% shareholder approval, and they had 65% without me, to cash out while screwing me over completely. However, Georgia law protects minority shareholders in exactly this situation. Our counter-strategy was elegant in its simplicity. File a formal objection to the merger, demand full records inspection of every document and email, file a derivative lawsuit for breach of fiduciary duty, force proper valuation of my shares based on actual company worth, and then sit back and watch them panic. Based on their cooked books and the real financial situation, Victoria explained something that made my heart race. Your 35% stake, based on legitimate valuation, is worth approximately $3.2 million. They're offering you $475,000. That's not just lowballing, that's theft. March 19th, 2024, we filed everything simultaneously. The objection to the merger, the records demand, the lawsuit, and the proper valuation request hit them like a coordinated legal assault. The effect was immediate and devastating for their plans. The merger couldn't proceed with active litigation pending. Goldstein's lawyers started asking uncomfortable questions about the financial discrepancies. Banks began calling about the questionable loan applications. The entire house of cards began to wobble dangerously, and then my phone absolutely exploded with panicked communications from my family. I started keeping a detailed log of all the calls, texts, and emails that came flooding in after we filed the legal paperwork. It was honestly better than any reality TV show, watching my family's panic unfold in real time through increasingly desperate digital communications. Day one brought a voicemail from Dad that I could tell was recorded while he was pacing around his office in full panic mode. "Marcus, this is your father. Call me immediately. This is a misunderstanding. We need to talk right now." His voice had that shaky quality I'd never heard before, like he was finally realizing that actions have consequences. Mom texted within hours. "Sweetie, your lawyer is being very aggressive. This isn't necessary. We're family. We can work this out." The woman who had fired me via text was now concerned about aggressive communication tactics. Brittany sent an Instagram DM because of course she did. "WTF are you doing? This is literally ruining everything. Call me back now." The construction princess was finally experiencing something she couldn't fix with a selfie and inspirational hashtags. Tyler's contribution was an email that perfectly captured his complete inability to understand the situation. "Bro, what's going on? Brittany is freaking out and I don't understand all this legal stuff. Can we just talk man to man?" By day 2, the panic was escalating beautifully. Dad texted, "Your actions are hurting the family business. Stop this immediately." The irony of him accusing me of hurting the family business after 6 years of systematic financial destruction was not lost on me. Mom left a crying voicemail that sounded like she was auditioning for a soap opera. How can you do this to us? We're your family. Family doesn't sue family. This is breaking my heart. The woman who had treated me like a personal ATM for years was suddenly concerned about family loyalty. Brittany texted, "You're literally ruining my life right now. The merger was supposed to make us all rich. Why are you being such a selfish asshole?" The fact that she thought the merger would make her rich showed exactly how little she understood about the financial disaster they'd created. Tyler, surprisingly, asked a reasonable question. "Can we talk man to man? I think there might be some misunderstandings here." At least one person in this circus was capable of basic human communication. Day 3 saw the creation of a family group text titled Emergency Family Meeting, which felt like being invited to my own execution. Dad demanded, "Marcus, join the call now. We need to resolve this immediately." I responded simply, "I'll communicate through my lawyer from now on." Mom pleaded, "Don't be ridiculous. We're family. Lawyers just make everything worse and more expensive." Brittany chimed in with her usual emotional intelligence. "OMG, he's being such a baby about this. It's just business." Tyler surprisingly suggested, "Maybe we should actually hear him out. Find out what he wants." Brittany immediately turned on him. "Whose side are you on? Are you seriously taking his side against your own wife?" By day 5, Dad was making threats via email. "If you proceed with this lawsuit, you're out of the family permanently. Don't think you can come crawling back when this backfires." Mom left a manipulative voicemail. "Your grandfather would be ashamed of you right now. He built this company to bring the family together, not tear it apart. You're destroying his legacy." Brittany posted a TikTok video of herself crying about toxic family members who betray you when you need them most, which she deleted after 3 hours when the comments weren't sympathetic enough. Tyler changed his LinkedIn status to "looking for new opportunities," which was probably the smartest thing he'd done in years. Day 7 brought real panic as the legal pressure intensified. Dad texted, "The forensic accountants are asking questions we can't answer." "What exactly did you tell them?" Mom made a Facebook post that was clearly about me. "Some people forget where they came from. Loyalty means everything. Family first. Betrayal hurts more than anything. The public passive aggression was a nice touch." Brittany texted, "Brad is threatening to pull out of the deal completely. Are you happy now? You're destroying everything we worked for." The fact that she thought she'd worked for anything was hilarious. Tyler left a midnight voicemail that sounded genuinely panicked. "Marcus, please call me back. Brittany says she's going to divorce me if this deal falls through. I can't lose her, bro. She's my whole world." By day 10, they were trying to negotiate. Dad emailed, "We're prepared to increase your buyout offer to $750,000. Final offer, take it or leave it." Mom texted, "The stress is making me physically sick. I'm in the hospital with chest pains." She wasn't actually in the hospital. Connor had seen her at the mall that same afternoon. Brittany posted an Instagram story from inside her BMW X5, crying with mascara running down her face, with the caption, "When family becomes your enemy and destroys your dreams." The dramatic irony was beautiful. Tyler finally admitted what I'd suspected all along. "I think we screwed up, man. I don't understand all the financial stuff, but the lawyers are saying we're in real trouble." Day 12 brought the masterpiece, Mom's 4,200-word text message that included some absolutely unhinged claims. She accused me of being adopted. I'm not. Said she never really loved me. Probably true. Claimed I was always jealous of Brittany. Laughable. Suggested Dad wasn't my real father. We look identical. Threatened to cut me out of the will. There was nothing left to inherit. Accused me of being Grandpa's favorite because I was manipulative. Pure projection. Blamed me for her marriage problems. They'd been failing for 25 years. And ended by saying she was hiring a witch to curse me. I wish I was making that last part up. Day 14 brought an accidental text from Brittany that was clearly meant for her group chat with her friends. The message was absolutely golden. "OMG. I can't believe Marcus actually found out about the trainer payments. Daddy promised that was buried in the books and nobody would ever trace it back. And now Brad won't return my calls and his assistant keeps making excuses. And Tyler is being such a bitch about everything, acting like this is somehow my fault. I'm not giving up my BMW X5 no matter what happens. Maybe I should just marry Brad. He's old, but he's rich, and at least he wouldn't question my expenses like Tyler does." The accidental confession was perfect evidence for our case. And the fact that she was already planning to leave Tyler for a richer man while complaining about his concerns over her spending was just the cherry on top. Day 16 brought the moment when the dam finally broke completely. Dad called me, and for the first time in my entire life, he sounded genuinely scared. His voice was shaking, and I could hear him breathing heavily like he'd just run a marathon. "Marcus, son, we need to talk. The forensic accountants, they found everything. Every single transaction, every hidden expense, every creative bookkeeping entry we made. Goldstein's backing out of the merger completely. The banks are calling our loans due immediately, and we need your help. We're drowning here." March 25th, 2024, I finally agreed to meet them at the office. The one with 4 different renovations that looked like an Instagram fever dream had been given a construction budget. Walking through those doors was absolutely surreal. Seeing the marble reception desk, the Zen garden meeting room, the meditation pods, all bought with money we didn't have while I survived on top ramen and drove a truck held together with duct tape and prayers. They looked like absolute shit, and I'm not saying that to be cruel. They genuinely looked like people who had finally realized their world was crumbling around them. Mom's Botox couldn't hide the stress wrinkles that had appeared seemingly overnight, and her designer bag looked like it was carrying the weight of the world instead of overpriced cosmetics. Dad's golf tan had faded to a sickly gray color, and his hands were shaking with a tremor I'd never seen before. The man who used to strut around like he owned the world looked fragile and defeated. Brittany was wearing, and I had to look twice to make sure, a Target blouse. The Instagram princess who hadn't shopped anywhere but Nordstrom in years was wearing clothes from Target. Her roots were showing dark against her bleached hair, her nails were chipped and unmanicured, and she looked human for the first time in years. The carefully curated social media persona had cracked completely. Tyler looked like he'd aged a decade in 2 weeks. His expensive haircut had grown out into something that actually looked normal, and he had genuine worry lines around his eyes. The man who thought concrete could be stretched with flour finally looked like he understood that consequences actually existed and were coming for him personally. Dad cleared his throat and tried to sound authoritative, but his voice cracked like a teenager's. "Marcus, son, we made some mistakes. We can see that now, and we're prepared to make this right. We're offering you full control of operations and 50% ownership of the company. Just please drop the lawsuits and help us fix this mess we've created." The silence that followed was absolutely deafening. You could hear the air conditioning humming and the traffic outside, but nobody moved or spoke. It was like they were all holding their breath, waiting for me to save them from the disaster they'd created. Brittany actually started crying. Real tears, not her usual manipulation tears that she could turn on and off like a faucet. Her mascara was running down her cheeks, and she didn't even try to fix it or take a selfie. "Please, Marcus," she sobbed, and her voice was raw with genuine desperation. "I know we treated you badly. I know I was a complete bitch to you for years. But we're family, and I'll lose everything if this doesn't work out. My followers will find out I'm a fraud. The BMW X5 will get repossessed, I'll lose the house, everything will be gone. I can't go back to being regular. I can't work at a normal job like normal people. What if I have to shop at Walmart?" The fact that she thought shopping at Walmart was the worst possible fate that could befall a human being said absolutely everything about her worldview and priorities. This woman was more terrified of being middle class than she was of losing her family relationships. Mom tried the guilt approach that had worked so well for years. Family helps family, Marcus. Blood is thicker than water, and we made mistakes. But we're still family. We can fix this together if we just work as a team like we used to. I let them sweat in the silence for what felt like an eternity, but was probably only 30 seconds. Let the weight of their desperation hang in the air until it became unbearable. Then I reached into my briefcase and pulled out a stack of contracts, laying them on the conference table. The same $25,000 table that Mom had bought because it was made from reclaimed mindfulness wood, or some similar bullshit. "Actually," I said, channeling every ounce of Grandpa Harrison's spirit and authority, "the full quote is, 'The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb.' It means the bonds you choose are stronger than the ones you're born into." Speaking of bonds and choices, I laid the papers on the table with deliberate precision. I already bought out Goldstein's position in the merger. As of 9:30 a.m. this morning, I own 65% of Harrison Roofing. The silence that followed was absolutely beautiful, like that moment in a movie when the record scratches and everyone freezes in perfect shock. You could literally watch the realization dawn on their faces as they processed what I just said. How? Tyler whispered, his voice barely audible. How is that even possible? It turns out that when you're the only person in a roofing company who actually knows anything about roofing, has established relationships with every subcontractor in the state, and can prove that the current management committed fraud, banks are very willing to back your business plan. Especially when you show them a realistic strategy that doesn't involve meditation pods and crystal healing for job sites. I stood up, gathering my papers with deliberate calm while they sat there in stunned silence. Oh, and you're all fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you out of the building. You have exactly 20 minutes to collect your personal belongings. Mom gasped like I'd physically slapped her. You can't do this! We're your family! No, I said, heading toward the door with more confidence than I'd felt in years. You're former employees who committed fraud against the company. My lawyer will be in touch about the criminal charges we're considering. The district attorney is very interested in those forged signatures and falsified tax documents. Brittany wailed like her world was ending, which, to be fair, it probably was. Where will I work? Who will hire me? I don't have any real skills. My entire resume is Instagram photos and marketing campaigns that never worked. I paused at the door, thinking about all the times she'd called me just the money guy. All the Instagram posts where she'd mocked people with regular jobs. All the money she'd spent while I lived on top ramen and wore the same boots for 4 years. I hear McDonald's is hiring, I said with a smile that felt absolutely wonderful. They'd love someone with your people skills and social media experience. Although you might want to lose the attitude about regular jobs, since that's what you'll be doing now. Also, they probably don't allow Instagram filters on the deep fryer. It's been 8 months since that glorious day, and the justice has been so sweet I practically need insulin shots to handle it. Dad, after 3 months of unemployment and growing desperation, finally got a job as a junior estimator at Rodriguez Roofing, our biggest competitor. He makes $19 an hour, which is less than our apprentices earn. He can't afford the country club membership anymore and has to golf at the public course where he actually has to carry his own clubs like a common peasant. He posts LinkedIn articles about humble beginnings and second chances that nobody likes or comments on. The man who used to lecture me about business strategy is now learning basic construction math from people half his age. Mom tried to become a social media influencer, posting motivational content about rising from the ashes and new beginnings, but failed spectacularly when she realized that personality actually matters for that career path. She now sells doTERRA essential oils on Facebook and lives in a 1-bedroom apartment in Marietta that costs more than she makes. Her entire downline consists of 4 people, all pity purchases from former friends who felt sorry for her. She actually applied to be a receptionist at my company, and I had HR send her the most polite rejection letter ever written. Brittany lost the BMW X5 when it got repossessed in a Target parking lot, which felt like poetic justice. She lost the house, and more importantly, she lost Tyler when he realized she was completely broke and had no intention of working to support herself. She now works as a receptionist at a dental office for $16 an hour, which is honest work that she approaches with the enthusiasm of someone being tortured. She still has Instagram, but she's pivoted to humble living and finding myself content that her remaining followers see right through. Her follower count dropped from 12,000 to 2,500 when the bots she'd purchased expired. She posted a day in my life video that included taking the bus to work, and the comments were absolutely brutal. She tried to start an OnlyFans account, but made $4.25 in 3 months, which might be the most devastating review of her appeal I've ever seen. Tyler divorced Brittany immediately when he realized she was broke and had been planning to leave him for Goldstein anyway. He got a job at Enterprise Rent-A-Car, where "We'll pick you up" is now his actual job description rather than a marketing slogan. He lives with his parents at 31 years old and tried to reconnect with me on LinkedIn, which I ignored. He posted about being a transportation solution specialist, and people who knew him before roasted him mercilessly in the comments. As for me, I kept all the good employees who had stuck with us through the chaos, fired the dead weight who had been coasting on family connections, and rebuilt Harrison Roofing from the ground up with actual business principles. It turns out that when you actually pay people on time, don't waste money on crystal healing for job sites, and consistently deliver quality work, success follows naturally. I sold the meditation pods on Facebook Marketplace, and Brittany actually commented "triggered" on the listing, which gave me a good laugh. I turned the Zen Garden meeting room into an actual functional meeting room where we discuss real construction projects. I donated Mom's $18,000 couch to a women's shelter where it could actually help people. I gave Carlos, our foreman, a partnership stake in the company and a $60,000 bonus for his loyalty during the difficult transition period. I implemented profit sharing for all employees, paid off all the legitimate debts to subcontractors who had been waiting months for payment, and started taking only projects that we could complete properly and profitably. The difference in company culture has been remarkable. When people feel valued and fairly compensated, they take pride in their work. The results after 8 months have exceeded my wildest expectations. Revenue is up 450%. Profit margins are running at 22% when the industry average is 4 to 6%. We've hired 28 new employees. We have 0 safety violations. There's a waiting list for our services, and we were featured in Georgia Construction Magazine as the comeback of the year. My personal life improvements have been just as dramatic as the business turnaround. I bought a new F350 King Ranch because, yeah, I could finally afford it, and I deserved something reliable after years of driving a truck held together by prayers and duct tape. I bought an actual house. Nothing crazy or ostentatious, but it's mine. With a garage for my tools and a yard where I can actually relax. I started dating Jessica, an architect who genuinely appreciates structural integrity and understands the satisfaction of building something that lasts. I got my health insurance back, which was a relief I can't even describe after years of hoping I wouldn't get sick or injured. I eat real food again instead of subsisting on top ramen and peanut butter sandwiches. I sleep 9 hours a night in my own bed instead of collapsing from exhaustion on a futon in a studio apartment. I started therapy, hence this post, because my therapist convinced me that processing these experiences in a healthy way was important for moving forward. Last month, Grandpa's lawyer called me with news that felt like a message from beyond the grave. It turns out there was a sealed letter in the will that was to be opened only when Marcus takes over the company fully. Inside was a letter from Grandpa that made me cry like a baby. Marcus, if you're reading this, it means they screwed it up and you fixed it. I knew they would screw it up, and I also knew you would step up when the time came. Your father was always soft, more interested in appearances than substance. Your mother thinks she's smarter than she actually is and spends money like it grows on trees. Your sister is an Instagram idiot who wouldn't know real work if it hit her in the face. Their spouses are somehow even worse. You're the only one who understood what I built here. You're the only one who respected it, bled for it, and sacrificed for it. You're the only one who truly earned it. Check the original toolbox in the shop, the one I built in 1979. There's a false bottom that nobody ever found. Inside, you'll find $650,000 in bearer bonds. I hid them there back in the 1990s when I didn't trust banks with everything. Consider it your real inheritance. The money is yours because you earned it, not because you inherited it. Keep the name Harrison Roofing. You earned that right, while they just inherited the privilege. P.S. Your sister really is an idiot, and I'm sorry you had to deal with that for so long. P.P.S. If your mom tries to sell essential oils, don't let her in the office. That shit stinks up the whole building. Love, Grandpa Harrison. I ugly cried for about an hour after reading that letter. Then I went to the shop, found the original toolbox, and discovered the false bottom exactly where he said it would be. $650,000 in bearer bonds, just sitting there for decades waiting for me to find them. I used part of the money to give substantial bonuses to the long-term employees who had stuck with us through all the chaos and uncertainty. The rest is going toward equipment upgrades and an education fund for employees' kids, because investing in people is what Grandpa would have wanted. Recent updates from the battlefield continue to provide entertainment. Mom tried to get hired as our receptionist, probably hoping I'd take pity on her, but I had HR send the nicest rejection letter ever written. Brittany applied for a marketing position and submitted her Instagram account as her portfolio, which had our HR department laughing for days. Tyler DM'd me, asking if I needed any operational consultants, so I sent him a McDonald's job application as a response. Dad saw me at Home Depot last week and tried to give me business advice about bulk purchasing, so I bought him a Construction for Dummies book and told him he might find it educational. The look on his face was absolutely priceless. I found out that Mom started a GoFundMe titled Family Betrayed by Ungrateful Son that raised a grand total of $52, mostly from people who didn't understand the real situation. Brittany's TikTok about working a normal job for the first time went viral, But not in the way she hoped. The comments were absolutely savage, with people roasting her privileged attitude and complete lack of self-awareness. Tyler actually got promoted at Enterprise Rent-A-Car and posted about it on LinkedIn like he'd won a Nobel Prize, which was kind of endearing in its own pathetic way. Good for him, honestly. At least he's trying to build something instead of just complaining about his circumstances. Mom's essential oil business got shut down by her apartment complex management for creating noxious odors that were disturbing other tenants. Apparently, her neighbors didn't appreciate the aromatic assault of her home-based MLM operation. Through all of this chaos and drama, I've learned some valuable life lessons that I want to share with anyone who might be going through something similar. Family doesn't mean doormat, and DNA isn't a license to abuse someone's generosity and hard work. Sometimes the people who share your blood are the ones who will bleed you dry financially and emotionally. Sometimes the family you choose, the people who respect you, support you, and treat you with basic human decency, is worth infinitely more than the one you're born into. The construction crew that stayed loyal during the chaos. Carlos, who never questioned my decisions even when everything seemed hopeless. The subcontractors who waited months for payment because they believed in what we were building. Jessica, who sees the person I am rather than the money I make. Victoria, my lawyer, who fought for what was right instead of what was easy. And Connor, who dug up the truth when I needed it most. These are my real family now. These are the people who earned my loyalty and respect through their actions, rather than demanding it through shared genetics. My biological family taught me exactly what I don't want to be. Entitled lazy, manipulative, and cruel. They showed me that success without character is just expensive failure, that blood relation without respect is just shared genetics, and that sometimes the best revenge is simply living well and building something meaningful. Harrison Roofing is thriving now, not because we have the fanciest office or the most Instagram followers, but because we do good work, pay fair wages, and treat people with respect and dignity. We've built a company culture based on merit, hard work, and mutual respect rather than family connections and manipulation. Grandpa would be proud of what we've accomplished and how we've honored his legacy. As for my so-called biological family, they're all learning what real life looks like when you can't coast on someone else's hard work and money. Dad is discovering what actual work feels like at 55 years old, working for people who evaluate him based on performance rather than family status. Mom is finding out that essential oils don't cure bankruptcy and that motivational Facebook posts don't pay rent. Brittany is learning that real jobs require real skills and that Instagram followers don't translate to actual qualifications. Tyler is realizing that business buzzwords don't build roofs and that actual competence matters in the working world. They made their choices over the course of 6 years. They chose greed over family loyalty, image over integrity, and easy money over honest work. They chose to exploit my dedication and love for them rather than appreciate it. Now they're living with the natural consequences of those choices, and I refuse to feel guilty about it. I chose differently. I chose to build something real and lasting. I chose to honor the legacy that Grandpa left behind. I chose to create jobs and opportunities for people who work hard and deserve better. I chose to be the person that Grandpa raised me to be. Someone who understands that success means building something that matters, not just accumulating expensive toys and social media validation. Some people have told me that I went too far, that I should have forgiven family and found a way to work things out. But forgiveness doesn't mean being a doormat. And family shouldn't be a license to steal, manipulate, and abuse someone's generosity. They had years to change their behavior, years to appreciate what we had built together, and years to do the right thing. Instead, they chose to destroy it all for a quick payout with a shady developer. So I chose to save what could be saved and let the rest burn to the ground. Sometimes that's the only way to clear the ground, so something better can grow in its place. The company is stronger than it's ever been. The employees are happier, better paid, and more respected. The work we do is honest and well executed. I sleep well at night knowing that everything I have, I earned through hard work and integrity rather than manipulation and exploitation. Meanwhile, they're all learning what it's like to live in the real world, where Instagram likes don't pay rent, where golf handicaps don't determine your worth, where essential oils don't cure financial problems, and where actual skills and work ethic matter more than family connections and entitlement. The best part of this whole situation is that they have to watch me succeed. Every article in Georgia Construction Magazine, every new employee announcement, every successful project completion, Every award and recognition reminds them of what they threw away for a quick buck and some temporary validation. But I'm not doing this for revenge anymore. I'm doing it because it's the right thing to do. Because Grandpa's legacy deserves better than what they were going to do with it. Because good employees deserve stable jobs with fair pay and respect. Because customers deserve quality work that will protect their families and homes. And because I finally learned that the best family is the one you build through mutual respect and shared values, not the one you're born into through genetic accident. So here's to second chances, to hard work paying off, to justice being served, and to never again confusing family obligation with financial responsibility. Here's to learning that loyalty is earned through actions, not demanded through genetics. Here's to building something that matters and leaving it better than you found it. TLDR. Family fired me via text from the construction company I essentially ran single-handedly. They tried to sell to a scammer developer to cash out while screwing me over. I bought them out instead using evidence of their fraud, fired them all, and now the company is more successful than ever. They're all working minimum wage jobs and struggling with real-world consequences. Grandpa left me $650,000 in hidden bonds as my real inheritance. I learned that chosen family beats blood family every single time. Thanks for reading, everyone. Sometimes the good guys actually do win, and sometimes justice is served with a side of poetic irony. Sometimes standing up for yourself and refusing to be a doormat is the healthiest thing you can do, even when it means burning bridges with people who share your DNA. Has anyone else dealt with family members who treated them like a personal ATM? How did you handle it? I'd love to hear your stories and advice.